Jumping joyfully toward your destiny is what life is all about. Welcome to the Destiny Culture podcast, where you'll create a destiny culture in a simple ABCD format so that confusion, exhaustion, and paralyzation don't win. Welcome, welcome. I am Tracy Warren, and I am here today with Denise Flood, who is, I was going to say like an old friend, but I can't even remember how long we've known each other now, but it's been years. And Denise has been a client of mine for years and has been a huge part of my own transformational journey and is incredibly valuable and influential and impactful in her own right. So I definitely, when we knew that we were going to be starting this Destiny Culture podcast, I knew straight away that I wanted Denise to be on the podcast. And do you realize you're our first guest? You will forever be our very first interview guest.
Yay.
Isn't that so fun? I don't know what it means, but you should get like some kind of brownie points for that or a little ribbon.
I was hoping for a plaque, but okay.
A plaque. Yeah. Okay. I'll work on that. So thank you for joining us today. We are going to be spending some time talking about the Awaken season, because last episode, which is episode number 2, we talked about just the Awaken season and what that phase is like within the overall ABCD process. The first phase, which is A, stands for Awaken. And I immediately thought of having Denise on specifically for this episode because she was at our very first Awaken Retreat. And that was really before we even really knew how much Awaken entailed. You know, we were still very, very babies at learning what that meant. And to just recap it in 2 sentences. Awaken is about coming back to yourself, coming back to your breath, coming back to God, coming back to be still, resting, receiving insight and whatever awakening that He has for you at that time. That really is the launching point of any type of transformation, is to just simply get still and hear yourself think. And hear that best part of you and the Holy Spirit be able to move, right? So Denise was at that. She has seen us through all sorts of ups and downs in our business building and our own transformational growth. And Denise still is one of my mentors because she is an EFT tapping professional and a wellness advocate with Young Living. And goodness, the plethora of ways that she helps women raise their frequency and all the good that comes with that is a beautiful part of Denise. And you never know what you're going to uncover about Denise. So as we start our conversation today, I'm looking forward to digging a little bit more and see if I can pull some funny out of this woman, because she is full of awesomeness. So Denise, why don't you just give us an introduction of yourself? Maybe share with people what you're most passionate about, and we'll go from there.
Okay. I would say I am most passionate about wellness and balance in your physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual bodies, that and filling ourselves with God, the divine, and shining that out into the world, and finding ways to do that are both healing for us and healing for everybody we encounter.
That's beautiful. So how did you then, here's what I'm going to have you share next, because I think this is hilarious. So Denise really, so we met when we were standing at a vendor event And I had a booth, I want to say for another direct sales company at the time. She was at a Young Living booth, but she was helping one of her people on her team. And so we just met, and that was when I was living in Naples, Florida, which is where Denise still is. And we really actually didn't get to know each other until I was headed out of that area. And since then have gotten very close. But tell them kind of that initial reaction you had to me, and probably everything that you felt like you perceived that I stood for, and then how it came to be that we ended up as friends.
Oh, yes. You had a globe, and it was terracotta, and I wanted it so that I could put stars on it for my the show where all the global farms were for Young Living. And that's how I met you. And you had your beautiful daughter with you. They were helping you. And I'm watching you, and I'm just like, oh, and it was at a church. And at that time, I had caution tape all around me for anything that had to do with church because of my own personal history. And I perceived you that way. And so very cautiously, being a great friend and dropping off things if you guys were under the weather, but keeping you well at our arm's length, because I knew you were in my life for a reason, but I didn't want you to be, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, it does. It does. And we were talking earlier today about just how sometimes our subconscious is throwing a hissy fit, like you consciously are aware that there's inner turmoil and you're not pleased with it, but you keep moving. It's like a moth toward a flame, and you keep moving toward it anyway. So yeah, it was hilarious and funny. And so over the course of time, I ended up starting to coach Denise to help her toward, I think probably what you hired me was to help with your business. And then what you usually ended up getting was coaching more around self-management, handling family issues, and all the stuff that comes up in the process of us trying to run and grow a business. But then fast forward, we ended up hosting this. We had this grand idea to host an Awaken Retreat. And here's Denise. And she is loyal. She is fiercely loyal and up for it. You were up for it. And I appreciate that, because there was more than a handful of ladies that were up for attending what we had no idea what we were doing. And why don't you share with them a little bit about that Awaken Retreat experience for yourself, how we had put it out there so that our listeners know. We had put the Awaken Retreat out there as simply a weekend of luxury, rejuvenation, refueling, replenishment, renewal. There were a bunch of words that started with RE. And we really just wanted people to be able to women step away from their daily hustle and grind. And again, knowing that it's Awaken, we really wanted to be able to not only let them have the time and space to breathe and get refreshed, but also we knew what would come from that was an awakening of, how God was going to speak to them. So how do you feel like God spoke to you that weekend? And what was that beginning part of Awaken for you?
I can say with all surety that, because I have the video to prove it, that I got there and I was like, and look at this, I'm going to be doing Zyto scans and helping people learn to tap and la, 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 and absolutely avoiding that awaken part of the retreat in all of my language. All of my language was third person or more out, and just couching it in that, I don't know if urban is the right word, but just not godly terms, not ungodly terms, but just not like didn't want to go there and wasn't going to go there. And Tracy and Amber couldn't make me go there.
It feels a lot safer to not entertain going there emotionally.
Yes.
Yeah. And if we stay busy enough, then we don't have to expect that any transformation is going to come, or that any change that may be potentially hard or uncomfortable will come, as long as we stay busy.
Right. And what I will say, and I was thinking about this, like, I love that we are all still staying connected, but to have that community, to have that actual retreat, and to realize my story in my head, a million times, I know it, and I know but to hear the other women start to speak and open up, and to hear our commonalities and our fears and our hurts. And there was people from all walks of life and all different ages, from the 20s up to the 60s. And we all had these common threads of stories that needed healing and needed acknowledging and needed love and acceptance. And every single person gave each other that there. And it stemmed from the atmosphere that you all built for what Awaken would hold. Like, that's the cup.
Yeah. We knew for sure that we wanted it to be a safe space and judgment-free, that any woman, any walk of life could come and receive what we were essentially promising: rest, renewal, and whatever awakening that they needed to receive. It's not on us to give them the awakening. Like, if we allow ourselves the time and the space, it'll come. So thank goodness everybody was blown away, and we were blown away more than anybody else. We just had no idea how powerful it would actually be. And certainly it was awesome having you there, not only because you're fun and you ended up, as much as you wanted to avoid the vulnerability, you went there and went to that place of vulnerability and shared your story. And I think it took, I don't remember, like who went first. Well, actually I do remember I went first. And then Amber went first, and we felt like it was important for leaders to share our vulnerable stories first and make everybody else feel more comfortable and confident that their story is valuable and beautiful, and it would be held in a high regard and in a safe space. But anyways, over the course of time, you shared your story, and people are blown away by you every time. I hope you know that. People are always blown away by you, any part of your story, because it's so multifaceted. But every part of your story that we continue to learn and hear about, and hear how you are victorious in all of these areas, is incredibly inspiring. So the story part ended up being way more profound than we thought that it was going to be. And we recognized afterwards that really was what people were craving, is not only the acknowledgement, but for them to see the beauty and the value in their story. And then that ended up leading into like the whole open door of part B of the phases, which is believe. And that's where the healing comes. Like, it's one thing to have a story, but we're usually not willing to share the story if there's still super deep hurt and pain associated with the story. So then, of course, once we have that awakening, we know, okay, what is God prompting me to do then during believe, in order to act upon it and take that inspired obedient action? It's going to be necessary to heal on some level. So then Denise did go on to believe, but we'll leave that there. But Denise did continue her journey onto our Believe Retreat, which is a whole other level of fun and fascination. So now, as you are doing your own work with tapping and oils and all of the energetic wellness that you provide, many of the things that you do as a practitioner do provide awakenings for people like me, and you're holding space for those people So how do you see that both you foster the awaken phase for yourself? And then how has kind of knowing the ABCD process influenced the way that you show up?
That's a book.
It could be. Yeah, it really could be.
I think it could be. Number one, I will say Awaken was absolutely just the beginning. And I continue to awaken. I continue to work with you individually and in group, because it is a process and that support is necessary. And being a newbie awakened person, because the other things that we did when was that I was baptized at that retreat. I accepted Jesus in my heart in a public way. Mm-hmm. Like I'd always been that private, like, oh, you don't talk about that, the way I was brought up, as well as that was dangerous, because if you didn't believe exactly the right thing in the right way, you'd get punished. And that was something I'm continually awakening to, that's just not true.
Yeah.
And Believe really showed me that too. So whoever is thinking about doing both, I highly suggest it, because and there are moments here, we've gone through these 2 years of not being able to get together. And sometimes it's hard. Sometimes I'll fall back into not fully loving myself the way that Jesus intends me to love myself and the way that he loves me. Because I forget. But then I have you to remind me, you and Amber and everybody that is a part of the ABCD process. Yeah.
This quote, I just was reading this book before we hopped on, and it is perfect. And I actually don't know who this person is. The name for the quote is by Nathaniel Branden. And it says, if my aim is to prove that I'm enough, the project goes on to infinity, because the battle was already lost on the day that I conceded the issue was debatable. Just by allowing the issue of am I enough to be up for debate is like where we lose. Isn't that fascinating? So if my aim is to prove that I'm enough, the project goes on to infinity, because the battle was already lost on the day I conceded the issue was debatable. I thought that was such a fascinating quote.
I love that quote. I love it. And it brings me back to some of the processes that we did together, where it's like, where is Jesus and what is he telling you?
Yeah, for sure. And it was fascinating at that particular Awaken. All that transpired was completely organic and just, I would say, spirit led. Like we didn't go into Awaken thinking, okay, this is baptism day and this is foot washing day and this is this, like it was just, we very much, everybody agreed upon arrival, like however it moves and flows, we're all going to be okay with that. And just that very fact is awakening and bristles many personalities. You already, I think, were a good example of somebody who moves with the flow in general, but certainly not everybody that attended was, and that can be really hard for some people. But anyways, yeah, it was a huge celebration to see. We even took pictures of Denise. You know how people will take before and after pictures of, I don't know, health or fitness kind of things. We had a picture of Denise before because we already knew Denise and I think it was probably on like day one. And then we have a picture of Denise afterwards. And then we've got another picture of Denise at the Believe Retreat. And it is fascinating to see just like the lightness and the way that you carry yourself. We could see a difference. But I think even more fascinating was, and it was so valuable having you and your educational background with the Zyto scanner at the event, because I remember having people scan on their first day. Tell people, listeners, for those that don't know what a Zytoscan is, what I'm talking about.
It measures your bioindex, your energetic field. And so it allows you to see where your body is asking for help, whether it's physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, and your organs and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So it reads, it's an electrical
skin responses. Yeah.
Yeah.
Electrical skin responses.
Yeah. Electrical skin responses. So we had people who wanted to get scanned on the first day and then on the last day. And there were marked, I mean, like, it's just scientific printouts, like, okay, this person was full of anger and hatred that came up on day one and completely released on day 4. Wow. It was like insane, like to actually be able to see measurable, because it's one of those things where inner transformation and inner work, we know the difference that it makes. And if anybody of, listening has experienced that, the difference that it makes, sometimes the difference that just sitting and breathing for a few minutes can make, much less, 4 days of intense relaxation and sharing and being filled in a safe space with, the Lord and godly women, and everybody's there wanting the same thing and lifting you up, and all that comes with that was just amazing. So to actually see something like print out that showed what we were feeling and expressing on the inside was just like icing on the cake. So thank God for amazing tools and for people who know how to use the tools like you. So, Denise, why don't you share with people your top tip for easing into a place of awaken? If this is like, you're thinking about somebody who was sort of in the same place as you were at the beginning, where you wanted to keep busy, stay up in your head because that's safe. Mm-hmm. And yet you also knew, like, there was that part of you that just kept nudging you toward this attractive thing, which was lightness and flow. What would you tell that person? A baby
and trust. That was the thing. Yeah. That was the thing, was somehow that weekend allowed me to trust again. And that was something that had been very lacking. Trusting other women, trusting God, it was a beautiful thing. My top tip would be just to tap right here. You know how to do it. And just say, even though I feel this way and I am unsure, I'm going to allow myself to let go and let God.
I love it. Yeah. So for people that are listening and not watching the video, Denise is taking her hand and tapping kind of those points right under the collarbones, kind of on the chest, just gently tapping. Yes. Would you explain that any other way?
No, that's good. And it is gentle. We're not knocking sense into ourselves. We're allowing our body and our mind and our spirit to connect together. And I have to just say thank you, because there was something otherworldly. There was something divine, something godly. God was truly present at Awaken, and he's present in all the work that you do. And it has been nothing but a blessing to me. Believe me, people who are listening, I was never more surprised than anybody else that when Amber goes, does anybody want to jump in the pool and get baptized? I didn't know where my legs came from. They just started getting up off the mat and walking and jumping in the pool. And there I was, and felt truly, truly saved, truly loved, and cherished. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. So as we wrap up today, what I really want to be doing regularly is to kind of take what conversation that we've had here on the podcast and wrap it up in an ABCD format. So A, awaken from our conversation today. is to breathe, make the choice to allow yourself an opportunity. So Denise said, I have no idea why I'm coming because this Tracy person scares me, but I'm going to do it anyway, So she made that choice to put herself into a place where she could have an awakening. That was the choice that she made. And then moving forward to believe, then she really experienced a heightened level of that trust, that faith, that belief upon making that decision to be baptized. And then she attended the Believe Retreat. Not everybody's journey is going to look like hers. Everybody's is different, right? But there was a ton of healing that took place at that Believe event. And then we didn't talk about it today, but I know enough of your story to know that there has been a Captivate season where you definitely went through a hard season of feeling a dry, kind of the desert feeling. And I won't go into details because I haven't asked your permission to do so. But between Believe and where we are now, there have been some really hard things that have happened that makes one feel like a pulling away, like, am I here alone? What is the point of all of this? Like it takes you back to that recognition and that realization that God's all I've got right here. It feels like I'm so alone that this is it. It's you and me, Lord, that kind of thing. And then you move forward into that dance season. And certainly it doesn't mean that trials and stretching does not take place, but Denise has certainly been dancing at the same time over this last year with, would that have even been 2020 when your CD came out? She's got a meditation CD that you can find on Amazon Music and probably other places. So this woman has been speaking even in international type situations and settings, and highly sought after. So Denise, why don't you share with them where people can find you so that they can learn more about you and the work that you're doing?
Well, the easiest thing would be just to go to my website, deniseflood.com, DENISEFLOOD, like a lot of water, or noahandtheark.com.
That's
But
good.
I'm on Facebook. Be my friend. If you know Tracy, look for her. You'll find me.
That's true. That's true. We are together a lot, and she has a ton of great resources so that you can learn more about all the different things. And she is super down to earth. As you know, I think everybody that we have come on Destiny Culture is going to be, because that is who I am. And that is kind of hardcore about just being real and being down to earth. So if you reach out to Denise, she is going to respond to you, and she is going to love you to pieces and make you feel right at home. So thank you once again, Denise. It's such a pleasure having you. And we look forward to connecting again soon. Bye, everybody.